As we mark Black History Month, Sportsnet's Donnovan Bennett has been reporting on the legacy of Black Canadians. He joins us now in studio. Thank you so much for being here with us. We always look forward to your reporting and just your incredible storytelling. Tell us a little bit about some of the features you have this month.
Yeah, happy Black History Month.
Happy Black History Month.
Got 28 days, got to use them wisely. So I love this time of year and this project because we have athletes making Black history right now in front of us. And what we do at Sportsnet is we team up with some creators in the community and say, what are the stories you want to tell? And can we be a megaphone for you to tell them? So we've got a bunch throughout the month. And, you know, whether it's DeMar DeRozan or Andrew Harris or Wayne Embry or Sarah Nurse, you learn that some of the issues that people in the Black community are facing are the same issues that the athletes that we love face as well.
Okay, we have a preview of some of your interviews. Let's take a look.
I get inspired by people who can drop down and get back up.
I think in my career, it's not over yet, but I've seen the faces and the landscape really change.
There's been a lot more color coming into skating, and now it's cool to be able to do it at the level that I'm doing it and show the people that, you know, you could do it too.
If you're not determined to make a difference, you kind of stand still. The responsibility's not heavy, but it's a responsibility.
Wow, there's definitely some common themes here for you in speaking with all these incredible athletes. What sort of stood out?
So I think one of the things that stood out for me is that there's so many conversations that we don't historically have in the Black community that this generation of athletes wants to start having about fiscal responsibility and equity, about mental health and wellness, about generational trauma. And so they're using their own stories to talk about those issues. And I think the other thing that sticks out to me when you look at someone like Sarah Nurse, who might be my favorite athlete in Canada right now, is we had a racial reckoning in 2020. You and the team at CityNews did a great job of reporting on it and all of the commitments that companies made at that time. Now we're a couple years removed. We've seen a fatigue of some of those commitments. We've seen a backlash on all things DEI. Well, Sarah Nurse has said, I want to have the companies who partner with me to be about what I'm about. So if you want to be a bank that sponsors me like RBC, then teach the kids that look up to me in my clinics about financial literacy. If you want to be CCM and give me hockey sticks, give young girls trying to play hockey for the first time whose parents can't afford it, hockey sticks. So I love the fact she's intentional with her own influence, even coming to someone like us with Rogers, who's partnered with her. She's got Nursey Nights, so every night after a PWHL game, she meets with a group of girls. They get a suite in a box. And it's sponsored by Rogers, and they ask her a bunch of questions like, how do you do your hair and how do you tape your stick?
Oh, wow.
So I love the fact that she's a role model for those young hockey players in that sense.
What do you think is a driving force for a lot of these athletes that you speak with to touch on these difficult subjects, and for you too to involve yourself with these conversations and then bring it to the audience?
I think for me, what I've learned from them is, you know, they don't want to just be a commodity or an asset for an organization where they go, they play, they make other people a lot of money, they make some money themselves, and then that's the limit of their influence. They look around themselves in the sub-economy of sports and they see themselves on the court, but they don't see themselves in the C-suites. They don't see themselves in terms of the consumer goods that are sold around the sport. So with their megaphones and their influence and their followers, they want to start to change that. So as a storyteller, if I can learn why and help them on that cause, I'm all about it.
Listen, you're the best to do it. You're the best to share and tell these stories too. You do such an incredible job. How can we tune in? How can we watch these conversations?
Yeah, so sportsnet.ca, there's a Black History Month tab right there if you scroll down. If you are on Rogers Xfinity, just speak into your remote and say Sportsnet Black History Month, or go to our YouTube page. There's a tab right there with all of the features that we've done, not just this year, but throughout the years.
Okay, I want to switch gears just a little bit because the great Donnovan Bennett is here. I want to talk a Super Bowl with you. There's so much to touch on. Let me not ask any specific question, but take maybe from you what your reaction about the entire night.
The game sucked. It was terrible, right? I'm older than you, so I remember the years when the Super Bowl was not a great game, and we got back to that. But we had great commercials, great advertisements. It is a very divisive time, so I thought it was very interesting that Most of the commercials were light and optimistic and humorous. Some comedy and some celebrities in the commercials, and obviously the Kendrick of it all. Using the spotlight maybe to be more petty than performance. I thought it was a bit meh, but there were some Easter eggs about the resistance and about Black Power, given that the president was in the building. I thought there were some shots, not just to Drake, but to Donald J. Trump. But the game was the secondary piece. It was all about the commercials, about the music, about the culture, the pop culture that is the Super Bowl. And shout out to Sydney Brown, Canadian from London, Ontario, who won it as well.
Yeah, we've been covering that all morning long. But you said the performance was, I mean, compared to other halftime performances?
Well, listen, we had Beyonce on Christmas Day.
That's greatest of all time.
Queen Bee shut it down. So when you look at it still, and I interviewed, members of the team at YouTube about the halftime performances that people are still watching today. People are still watching Rihanna from a couple years ago.
Yeah.
This was not close. And so I understand that Kendrick wanted to end the beef and the saga with Drake, but I felt it was short-sighted given that 120 million people were watching, and most of them did not care about Aubrey Graham.
All right. Will Aubrey Graham care, you think, about this halftime, or is he busy in Australia?
I think he went literally to the other side of the globe
world.
just to be away from it all. But he's got a new album that drops on Valentine's Day with Party Next Door from Mississauga. So I think he'll be back in our playlist soon.
He's a Drake fan.
I love
Donnovan Bennett, thank you so much. Always a pleasure having you here.
Anytime.